Dear Maya, I know this week is late. I'm so sorry. There's just been a lot going on, but no room for excuses. Here it is. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about support systems. I think of my support system being the people who I really want to talk to after something kind of crazy happens, right? Maybe it's something that happened with you or your dad or Oreo. I think each time it's maybe somebody a little bit different. And sometimes it can be the same. So if I'm really overstimulated and I really need somebody that I know is going to be able to kind of be there and kind of talk me down. I have a friend who I just recently met within a year. She's very active in listening. She can kind of understand what I'm saying in the tones that I'm saying it. She understands me like all around, which I really appreciate. And because she's such a good active listener, she's able to kind of hit everything I'm talking about. So I could be kind of venting and spewing out all of these things, and she really takes time to address each thing and each topic that I'm saying. If I'm at home and I'm really maybe overstimulated because there's just a lot of noise or something outside, your dad is always there. And he's always kind of just gets me back into the groove of focusing and what's really important right now. And he just looks me in my eyes, and it's super important and meaningful to me because it kind of just pauses everything else around us, and I'm kind of brought back to reality. I think it's very easy for me to get distracted, especially being outside New York City with the cars and the sirens and the bikes. I was going to say the bike dings, the bike bells, and little kids running on the street, people selling things, people begging for money. There's just so much going on. So it's nice to have somebody to kind of just grab my attention and turn it into the here and now. Sometimes when something funny happens outside, I run to you because I think we always have a pretty good sense of humor and we're able to really laugh about something. Or a really great example was when something scary happened to me the other day. I let you know because you love hearing about the day and what I did, even though sometimes it's just working. But when something does happen, you love to kind of talk about it, and I really enjoy that because your emotions, you're so in the moment with me. You're like, what? How did that happen? Oh, and then what did they say to you? And it's I love it because it's kind of like us gossiping with each other, just kind of understanding. And what I appreciate about you is that you're understanding my emotional side and you're able to kind of reflect that back. Even if I just kind of told you, hey, something happened, and I don't want to be so emotional about it, such as when that person spit on me the other day. It was really nice because your reaction really mirrored what I was really feeling, but I didn't want to kind of just show that and start crying all over again. So it was really nice to have that emotional connection where you're understanding where I am coming from, or maybe how I would feel in that moment, and you're kind of just showing that back to me. So that's really cool. When something really deep happens and it feels out of control, I feel very worried and scared and just unsure about the future. I usually either call or voice note one of my really good friends, and I've known her just as long as your dad. And I love her to death because her voice, when she talks back to me, is just so calming. And again, she's very alert with me in the moment, and she addresses, like my other friend does, addresses the things that I'm saying. She's very understanding, and she will let me know if if there's another way to look at it. And sometimes for me, it's a little nerve-wracking because it's no, maybe she doesn't see it how it is. But it's just a different perspective, and I love and appreciate her perspective because we are in different kind of worlds right now. She lives in the suburbs, and I live in the city, and so I really appreciate all of the different kind of views we both have. And when there was a situation when I was in Minnesota, and I was thinking of maybe staying a little bit longer instead of going back to New York, and there was just a whole thing that was happening in Minnesota. And I couldn't, before I even called your dad, I called her because I just needed somebody to understand my overwhelmed overwhelming thoughts. I didn't go to your dad because I already knew he was very stressed out with something he was dealing with. So she wasn't working at the time, so I knew I could call her and that she'd be able to pick up and actually spend time with me and all of my intrusive thoughts. And I really appreciated that because I was kind of spiraling, actually. I was worried about so many things at once, and she just really broke them down for me and separated them. And it was like, all right, number one thing. We kind of looked at it in a hierarchy way, and that really helped me because it's kind of like stepping back and when you have all of these numbers in front of you and they're just kind of waving around and frolicking in front of you, and then somebody says, hey, like, let's separate them and let's start from 1, then we'll go to 2, and then we'll do 3, and then we'll do 4. And it's that friend who just really kind of helps you unwind all of these complicated and complex numbers. And some of them you realize you didn't even have to really deal with at all. Like maybe 10 through 100 were just over exaggerations of thoughts. And so I really appreciate that about her. And I really appreciate the voice notes back and forth because they really kind of calm me down. I have another friend who I met about 2 years ago in New York City, and we were in the same group together. We were meeting in Central Park, and we were learning about Andean culture, and she's Peruvian, and I really loved meeting with her and talking with her, and she's hilarious. Like, she just has the best sense of humor. I love that she's Peruvian. I love that I show her some of my artwork sometimes, and she'll show her mom or her aunts, and I really love the feedback she gives me from them because it's something I miss, in Peru. I don't really have anybody I could go to as far as like getting feedback from artwork or like perspectives on how their traditions are and maybe how they can relate or how some of my artwork maybe reminds them of certain things. So I just really love getting that feedback from her and her family. And I hung out with her about a week or so ago, and I love it because when we talk, I can explain myself, and she asks all these questions that other people might not be brave enough to ask. And she kind of gets deep into these situations with me and dives into them, but also reflects on them, really helps me. She doesn't push me to tell her anything that I don't want to talk about. And it just feels like such a loving and caring relationship. She's always so supportive of whatever I'm doing, and I really cherish that. I have another friend who I met actually in Minnesota, and he moved out here about 2 or 3 years before me. And what I really appreciate about him is because he's kind of helped me along my entire journey of my adulthood. And I think that was really prominent when we met in Minnesota. We met in college. It was friends of friends. And he was just really relaxed, really chill, could really talk about deep things, was going through a lot, is still going through a lot. And it's nice because his perspectives are totally different than mine. How he was raised is completely different. What I was doing in the 3rd grade is night and day to what he was doing in the 3rd grade. He just had a different home life than I did. So some of the things that he has gone through, basically all of the things that he has gone through is a lot harder. He's had a lot harder life than most people I know. And so his perspective is so important to me because some things that, as a person you might get caught up in, right? Like you maybe wake up and you accidentally hit your knee on something and now you have a bruise. And then somebody else might wake up and hit their knee on something and they shattered their kneecap. Both people got hurt, but it's kind of, and I don't want to minimize the person who just bumped their knee and got a bruise, but it's also kind of nice to be able to have that perspective of being like, whoa, like it really could have been worse, or whoa, like just grateful that you're here, glad you made it out safe. I've been through really hard things, but let's get up together. And I think that's the good perspective he offers me. And kind of just watching him grow into himself has been so cool. We had a mutual friend, and this person was just really toxic. He just really was all about himself, and he was a bully. We'll just leave it at that. And so I've watched my friend really go through ups and downs with this person because he thought he was a brother figure to him. And it was really hard to watch, but to kind of sit there and be able to help each other kind of get out of that situation and other situations together, and lean on each other when there's like really great achievements to be had, and celebrate when really good news is happening in our lives. I think that's the coolest thing. Having ties back to Minnesota also helps, because it's kind of like we understand that our roots are there, but we understand what we're doing now here in New York City. So having a friend who complements that part of me is really important for me too. It's really good to have yourself like a handful of friends. It doesn't need to be family members. It can be whoever you need it to be, but it's really good to be able to say like, hey, like I have these group of people who are really there for me, who really want to hear me out and be there for me when I really need them the most. I don't have like a dozen friends, but the ones I do, like we ride together, and I feel that love so much, and I'm connected with them almost daily, if not weekly, with all of my friends, because it's just one of those things, like checking in with them and being around them, being aware of what's going on in their life and how I can contribute. Not every time I can. Sometimes I am tapped out and I can't respond to anything for a week or two. But it's kind of like being able to connect later on and knowing that, hey, like, sorry, it's been a lot, like, and talk about it usually too, and then they can understand. So big picture for this week is just, I hope that when you get older and as you grow older, you are able to have kind of like this life support vest of friends with you. And I don't think you need to have all of your friends that you've met from, grade school. I think it's really normal to meet friends as adults too, because not every single time the people you grow up with are going to be the same people, right? They'll go off to college and meet more people, or they'll go up and have different kind of jobs, and some people get stagnant and other people grow, and you kind of just want to keep with the people who are growing. So sometimes you're going to lose good friends, but I think it's just super important to have this safety support system at all times, and you know that in different situations you can call them and they'll be there for you, and they'll show up exactly how you need them to be, and vice versa. I know that you're such a good friend, you'll be able to be there for them too. And I'll just wrap it up this week by saying I love you, and I will talk to you next time.